Congratulations on the great win in Brazil. First question, do you think that if your season was starting right now, you would be having a very different year?
I think so, mate. I think that the cars this season, more than probably any other year, have really changed. Mainly because how the tyres have performed. We've even seen the races become probably a bit less exciting because the teams have got on top of the tyres and the drivers have got on top of the tyres. So we saw early in the season that the races were very up and down. The performances were a little bit hit and miss with people here and there. Fernando having high degradation, things like that. So for me, I think yes. I think that the way the season finished for me, some quite strong performances, even though they weren't quite showing. But the last one in Brazil was certainly a nice tonic for me to finish the year, and looking forward to a nice winter and then coming back again.
Well, in many ways, qualifying set you up for the race because the difference between you and Seb in qualifying was very, very small. Perhaps as small as the difference between you two guys in
it was a very close battle all weekend. Seb was having a little bit of trouble on Friday. Took a bit of setup from our side as well, and then we had a good battle for the pole position, and there wasn't much in it at all. And in the end he got it because he's done a good job on Saturdays, but I knew the race was going to be quite long around there, and we had the threat of rain as well, which is always there in Interlagos, and I knew that I was in a really good chance of winning, although Seb had the problem in the end. But even still, before that the race was still looking pretty good.
Yes, he did make that mistake. Do we believe that was related to the gearbox problem?
No, I don't think so. I think that he went off, as I say, later in the race. I had a very similar incident on lap 2 actually, which dropped me back a bit. I didn't go quite as wide, but that curb at turn 4 is quite tricky. But that's how it turned out.
So that's how Jenson Button got so close to you on
right,
lap 2 in the race. And then after that, I guess you just basically mirrored Seb in front of you and pulled away from Jenson. Going back to the start, not the first time you started on the dirty side of the grid in Brazil, or from that position, and you've won from there as well. So what were your thoughts going into the start?
Good. I had a little bit too much wheel spin. I was watching Lewis in the mirror. I knew JB didn't make a phenomenal start. As usual, Fernando made a very, very good one. Ferrari starts are good, so I could just see him creeping up on the outside of JB. But I knew if I kept Jenson out and gave him a very, very poor line for turn 2, because all of us want to get 2 right because we've got a long run onto 3 then. So that was the most important part, obviously, and getting that run right.
Yes, it looks as if you had a bit of understeer going into that first corner, and that's where Seb got a little bit of a jump on you on that first lap. Yeah,
he teed himself up very well for 2, because I had to try and make sure I squeezed Jenson out. My line coming down the hill was a bit tighter, as you say, for 2. So.
And Mark, the last 3 laps of the race, what was going on there? Purple, purple, purple.
Well, I thought that I cruised for most of that most of the middle part of that last stint, and then coming with 3 laps to go, I thought like lap 68, 69, got a bit less fuel now. Let's try and drop a time in, and I made a little mistake in turn 8. So then I went for another lap on lap 70, and I got a denied upshift, which is basically wasn't a seamless upshift on the way out of turn 12, basically because a little bit of limiter and a bit of curb. So that lost me another 1/10 and a half. So I thought, okay, I've got to go again. I got to for lap 71 and put it all together, and the fastest lap at the end is always a nice way to finish in the car, which haven't had a huge amount of great memories for me, but that race was very, very special for me, and to finish with the car, pushing it, feeling great with it, and doing a purple lap time on the last lap that I've ever done in that car was great. I was finishing the race in a good way, and I think that we've seen that this year. If you can unload the tyres with the stops, obviously I was for once in a position where I could pit a little bit later, then all of a sudden those other stops the stints become so much easier.
I know we started with this topic, but when you do look back now with this win behind you, and wins tend sometimes to make everything much clearer, do you wonder why it was so tough in 2011?
I mean, even when you get those first chunk of 5, 10 real laps with P1 on the board, there's lots of things that do go through your mind, and that was really the first time this year that happened. I felt very strong in Spa. Felt I could have won there, but obviously, having to come from sort of a tough first lap, we had to pit obviously with our tyre problems there. So there was a few races this year where clearly I felt that I could have done a lot better. But in the end, that's how it turned out, and it's the fine details, mate. Seb's put together a phenomenal year. He's got a lot more victories than all of us put together, and but when you get those little things right, like you say, the start and the first lap, keeping a bit of pressure on and around the stops, then things can happen for you.
Mark, congratulations again, and have a good Australian summer.
Thanks, Peter. Cheers, no problem. Thank you. Cheers.